Who killed JFK? That question has haunted this country for more than 60 years, and polls show most Americans don't accept the official version.
Well, it is the biggest news since 1964 when the Warren Commission issued its report. This is brand new information. It was never shared until now.
For over 60 years, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy has remained one of America's most haunting mysteries. Countless theories have tried to explain what really happened in Dallas that day, but the truth has always seemed just out of reach. Until now, the FBI has just released shocking new details that dive deep into Lee Harvey Oswald's complicated past, the CIA's chaotic Cold War operations, and hidden government secrets that could change everything we thought we knew. Are these the answers we've been waiting for? Or are there just more pieces to a puzzle that refuses to be solved? If you're curious about one of the most debated events in American history and what the FBI has just discovered, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Join us as we pull back the curtains on the JFK assassination. The official story that never added up.
It wasn't a Castro conspiracy. It wasn't a Soviet conspiracy. It wasn't a mafia conspiracy. Our institutions did it. Our government did it.
I think it's very, very tragic. I think a lot of us possibly didn't agree with a lot of his policies, but it's real sad that this country would, if something this say would have to happen to such a fine man.
On November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was shot and killed in broad daylight while riding in a motorcade in Dallas, Texas. And just like that, the most powerful man in the world was gone. Not long after, a 24-year-old ex-Marine named Lee Harvey Oswald was pinned as the assassin. This was a man with a questionable past and a rifle. But Oswald never got a chance to defend himself or explain his actions, because just 2 days later, he was gunned down by Jack Ruby, a nightclub owner with his own shady connections, right there on live television. When this happened, President Lyndon B. Johnson quickly put together the Warren Commission, a team tasked with giving America some closure. And by 1964, the commission announced that Oswald acted alone. No co-conspirators, no shadowy organizations, just a troubled man with a gun and a grudge. Yet, after decades, most Americans were not still buying it. In fact, a 2023 Gallup poll showed that about 65% of people believe there's more to the story.
Our first investigation will be announced, but it's going to be covering on a thorough investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination.
Here's the most interesting part. In 2023, the government finally dropped thousands of files about the assassination, and people expected some bombshells. Yet, experts like Mark Silverstone from the University of Virginia claimed these documents mostly just backed up what the Warren Commission already told us. And according to him, there were no smoking guns, no game-changing revelations, just more questions buried in a mountain of bureaucratic paperwork. But surprisingly, these disclosed files did show that the CIA was tracking Oswald long before JFK's motorcade rolled through Dallas. They watched him closely after his messy return from the Soviet Union in 1962, and even knew he visited the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico City just weeks before the assassination. The CIA and FBI had eyes and ears on Oswald through phone taps, informants, and constant surveillance. Yet, somehow, they missed a sign of an actual conspiracy. Or did they?
CIA denied for years knowing anything about Lee Harvey Oswald or following him in any way or opening his mail. Just untrue.
The CIA's secret hit list. These files that were disclosed also shed more light on Oswald's time in the Soviet Union, where he moved to the Soviet Union in 1959 and even tried to renounce his U.S. citizenship. When he came back to America, disillusioned and angry, and the CIA kept tabs on him. But they couldn't pin down any solid ties to Soviet intelligence. A KGB agent named Nikonov even checked to see if Oswald had ever worked for the Soviet government, but there was no concrete proof. But here's the kicker. The report suggested that Oswald wasn't even that great of a shot. Yet, we're supposed to believe he pulled off a near-perfect hit on a moving target from a significant distance. And the same government that had its eyes all over him somehow couldn't stop him from doing the unthinkable. If that's not a massive oversight, it's a convenient one.
A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed.
Furthermore, in March 2025, new files of the JFK assassination were released. The Trump administration ordered the release of a large number of these files. These releases have involved tens of thousands of pages of records related to the 1963 assassination of President John F. Kennedy. But one of the most suspicious parts of these newly released files is how the CIA handled Oswald's case. Just days after the assassination, the CIA allegedly destroyed a tape of Oswald's phone calls with the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. So, why destroy evidence unless there was something to hide? Then there's the fact that George Joannides, a CIA officer who was deeply involved with anti-Castro Cuban exile groups, was chosen as the CIA's liaison to the House Select Committee on Assassinations in the 1970s. This was the same guy who, years earlier, was reportedly funding and guiding Cuban group that had crossed paths with Oswald. So, if that's not a conflict of interest, what is? Joannides never disclosed his involvement, and the agency conveniently kept that detail quiet until decades later. It makes you wonder, if the CIA wasn't actively covering something up, why go through such lengths to keep people in the dark? Why choose someone with such close ties to the very people Oswald interacted with to handle the case? But this wasn't all, as there were more connections to this. And the Mafia link is one of them. The Mafia's involvement. That was more than just a theory anymore.
The old man, Kennedy, was a very close friend of Giancana's. They were in business together in the old days, in the bootlegging business.
The Mafia's link to the JFK assassination has always been a popular theory, but these new files give it a little more weight. Back in the 1960s, the Mafia had every reason to hate both JFK and his brother, Attorney General Robert Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy had been cracking down hard on organized crime, and the Mafia wasn't pleased. Jack Ruby, the man who silenced Oswald forever, was known to have Mafia ties. He ran shady nightclubs in Dallas, and his connections to organized crime weren't a secret. Did Ruby kill Oswald out of patriotism, like he claimed, or was it to keep him quiet before he could reveal anything else? The FBI's documents reveal that in the days before the assassination, Ruby made multiple phone calls to known mobsters. These weren't just casual chats. They were contacts with people who had the power and the motivation to orchestrate a hit if they wanted to. So the question is, were they simply nervous about the fallout, or were they making sure everyone kept their mouths shut?
If someone would break the silence on 9/11 and give us some true insight as to the way that day unfolded.
However, for decades, conspiracy theorists have pointed fingers at Lyndon B. Johnson, the man who gained the most from Kennedy's death. The files reveal that Johnson knew about plots to kill foreign leaders during his presidency, yet he always denied that the U.S. engaged in such tactics. Johnson and Kennedy had a strained relationship, with Johnson often feeling sidelined and disrespected by the Kennedy inner circle. Johnson's political career was on the line, and becoming president was a fast way to secure his power. Some theorists believe Johnson may have known more than he ever admitted.
You're good to see you. How's life treating you today? Well, Saul, it's been a pretty touch and go situation. Linda and I have had quite a few unpleasant words here lately.
While there's no direct evidence linking Johnson to the assassination, the FBI files show just how ruthless politics could be in the 1960s. Power struggles ran deep, and ambition often outweighed loyalty. And many are suspecting that Johnson was just one of many who stood to gain from Kennedy's death. Here's the most intriguing part. Stay tuned. The Secret Service's failures were no accident.
And Paul Landis, who's the Secret Service agent we're talking about, Jackie Kennedy's Secret Service agent, was there that day. He was in the follow-on car called Halfback, and he saw the president's head explode.
Many believe the Secret Service failed Kennedy that day, not just by accident, but possibly by design. The motorcade route was changed at the last minute, and the protective bubble on Kennedy's car was removed, making him an open target. The agents assigned to protect him were reportedly drinking the night before, leading to delayed reactions when the shots rang out. These new documents hinted that the Secret Service may have known about potential threats in Dallas, but did little to address them.
Today, here in Dallas, he died of a gunshot wound in the brain.
Some experts argue that this level of negligence could only be intentional. If someone wanted Kennedy dead, creating gaps in his protection would have been the easiest way to make it happen. So, was it pure incompetence or a deliberate setup? Either way, the Secret Service's failure that day remains one of the most suspicious aspects of the entire tragedy.
It made me angry.
So, this is Captain Will Fritz of the Dallas Police Department in charge of the investigation, and he brings you a confession saying that you were part of a conspiracy with Lee Oswald to kill the president?
That is correct.
However, another unsettling detail is that the FBI reportedly received multiple warnings before the assassination that JFK was in danger. One of the most notable warnings came from a Dallas informant just days before the shooting, claiming a plot against the president's life was in the works. However, the FBI seemingly brushed it off.
Yes.
J. Edgar Hoover on 2192.
Are you familiar with this proposed group that they're trying to put together on this study of your report and other things, 2 from the House, 2 from the Senate, somebody in the court?
J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI at the time, had a complicated relationship with the Kennedys. He had clashed with both JFK and his brother Bobby, and there are theories suggesting he might have seen Kennedy's death as an opportunity to regain control. Some believe Hoover intentionally buried critical intelligence to let the assassination happen, or at least allowed chaos to unfold. After the assassination, Hoover was quick to push the lone gunman theory, dismissing any idea of a larger conspiracy. And the fact that files on Oswald mysteriously disappeared from the FBI's archives doesn't make it any less suspicious. And, as we uncover more secrets about JFK's assassination, it feels like the truth is still just out of reach. Was it a massive cover-up involving the CIA, the Mafia, and the government? Or is it just a series of tragic coincidences? The mystery remains unsolved, and the questions only grow deeper. If this left you wanting to know more, click on the video on your screen to explore more shocking conspiracies and untold stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest deep dives.